Hello there, welcome to the Football Bloc. My name's Brandon, and today we're going to look back at Matchday 3 of the 2022 World Cup group stage, and I'm going to give you my reactions to my predictions and see how I did. If that sounds interesting, then let's hop right into it. So what a match day. What a selection of games we have here. This was absolutely nuts. I gotta tell you, the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday games were completely crazy. As well as Tuesday as well, from an American point of view at least. These were some of the best World Cup games, or I guess collection of games, because all the stuff was happening at the same time. This is some of the best things I've ever seen coming out of a World Cup. This is what we want. This is what we wait for, and this is, the joy that the World Cup, watching the World Cup, really brings. Like, we've seen all these upsets. Big teams are going out, small teams, and not just small teams like Dark Horse or anything. Teams that completely come out of nowhere. Results that come out of nowhere, players that have individual performances that no one saw coming, things like that. This is, this match day has easily been the best match day of the three, and these past few days have been some of the best World Cup, or best days in World Cup history. So let's start off with Group A. Now, my prediction for these two games, I said that Netherlands would win 3-1 over Qatar in this first match here, and ultimately I didn't get the score right, but I did get the deficit right. Qatar won 2-0 over Qatar. There's not really much to take from this game. Netherlands had already basically qualified, because there's no way that Qatar is going to beat them. Qatar lost 2-0. They played, I thought, pretty abysmal. They had a few chances here and there, but I don't think that there's been a single team this World Cup that has been bad, with the exception of Qatar. Costa Rica lost 7-0 to Germany, or to Spain in the first game, but they recovered from that. There's been some other heavy defeats, but Iran had a heavy defeat, but they recovered from that. Qatar, just in terms of the way that they played on the pitch, they looked awful at times, and it's safe to say that Qatar is not only the worst host ever, but they're the worst team at this World Cup, which is a shame, because I always like to see the host nation do well, and Qatar legitimately have a good team. They're the reigning Asian champions, but they just couldn't get together for the World Cup. Netherlands, on the other hand, they look convincing, but not swashbuckling and with swagger at their best, but still they got the job done. Now on to the next match, and this was a heartbreaker, because I thought Ecuador were playing wonderful throughout this tournament. First of all, they completely surprised Qatar, and then they tied the Netherlands 1-1, but in my opinion, they were the better team, and they should have won that game. They had a few shots that hit the crossbar, things like that. So I was fully expecting Ecuador to come out on top in this game, and unfortunately my prediction was wrong. Senegal was the one that came out on top. Ecuador just looked tired. It looked like they kind of maybe used up all their energy to play against the Netherlands. Versus Senegal, they just showed up at the right moments. This game was close, but overall Senegal was the better team, and they ultimately deserved to win this match, and now they find themselves in the knockout stage. So now we go into Group B, and first off we have Wales versus England, and in this particular match I predicted that England would come away with a really narrow 1-0 win. Now I got my prediction right that England would win. Yeah, big whoop-de-doo. But they didn't just win by 1 goal, they won by 3 goals. I actually thought they played really well in this match. Wales just did not show up, and England kind of wiped the floor with them. It was kind of a by the motions performance. They didn't really have to go into a third gear, but credit to England for racking up the goals and getting the job done. Now, in this next match here, Iran versus USA, I said that the US would win 2-1. I thought it would be really, really close. And ultimately, that is what happened. I have the goal deficit right. USA won 1-0, and it was really close. I thought in the first half, the USA was playing great. I thought we were relentless in our attacks. We had attack after attack after attack. The goalkeeper for Iran was forced into several saves, and then the breakthrough finally came. Wonderful ball over the top, then a good cross from Dest with his head, and then a clutch finish from Pulisic, who even injured himself in the buildup of that goal. But that ultimately was all that was needed to qualify. As the match went on, Iran started to really crank up the pressure. But even though there was some really, really close moments, the USA held on. Now we go into the knockout round. I thought overall this has been a great performance from the U.S. Yes, we probably should have won against Wales, and we probably also should have won against England. But still, for a team that many people were writing off, now we find ourselves in the knockout rounds, and I'm proud of the U.S. Now let's move on to Group C, and this first match here, Poland versus Argentina. I predicted this one 100% correct. I thought that Argentina would come away with a professional 2-0 win, and that's pretty much what happened. This match really could have been more than 2. It could have been 4 or 5 if it wasn't for Wojciech Szczesny, who had a wonderful game. He saved the penalty from Messi. He's been easily the best goalkeeper of this World Cup so far. And Argentina, they looked, maybe I wouldn't say shaky, but they looked maybe a little unsure of themselves in the first half. But as the game went on, they grew into themselves. This was a routine and comfortable win for Argentina. But Poland did just enough to qualify for the knockout round, especially with the result that happened in this game. In this game, I was completely wrong. I thought that Saudi Arabia would come away with a 1-0 win, and that they would beat down Mexico and ultimately qualify for the group stage, or qualify out of the group stage. But Mexico, for some reason, decided to finally attack in this match. They were electric going forward. They created chance after chance, but they just couldn't score. Very different than the last games where they barely even went forward. They eventually got the breakthrough. They had 2 pretty nice goals, and they were tied with Poland. It was so close. It was literally coming down to fair play rules, like the amount of yellow cards and things like that, until Al Dawsari, I think I'm pronouncing that right, scored for Saudi Arabia in the 94th minute, and that basically killed Mexico's chances. And this is the first time that Mexico do not qualify for the World Cup knockout stages in I think 3 decades. It's been a long time. I think 1990 was the last time. It's been crazy. And credit to Poland, they held on. They did their job. All right, so now let's go on to the next group, and we have this match right here, Tunisia versus France. And this match was really interesting. I thought that this would be a comfortable win for France, but I didn't foresee that Didier Deschamps would make vast changes to the squad, basically resting all the starters and putting on all the bench guys. But even still, you would expect France's bench to be able to beat Tunisia, considering France have arguably the most talented team in the entire world, and yet they couldn't do it. They got thoroughly outplayed. I thought Tunisia played very well. Great goal from Khazri to open the lead, or open the score for Tunisia and to get the lead. And France looked really out of it. France did not look good. France looked really lethargic, really slow, disjointed, and it wasn't until they subbed on their starters, that when they put on Griezmann, they put on Mbappe, they put on Dembele, where they started to get some chances, but it was too little too late. They did have a goal that was ruled off, which slightly controversial. I think the referee made the right decision, but Tunisia hold on for the win, and if it wasn't for the other match, then they would have gone through to the knockout round. So credit to Tunisia for leaving with their heads held high. Now this match, I'm very proud of this prediction. I completely called this correctly. I said that Australia would pull up the shock and eliminate Denmark from the World Cup with a 1-0 victory, and that's what happened. A wonderful, wonderful goal from Matthew Leckie. Really expert move right there, and beautiful shot into the lower corner. But I have to say, Denmark were so disappointing. I mean, Denmark had a lion's share of the possession. They had more chances, but none of their chances looked like scoring. There was no point of the match where I was convinced that Denmark would legitimately gain the lead. And Australia, they looked dangerous on the counter. They waited to attack at the right moments, and credit to them. Yeah, they completely rebounded after that 4-1 loss to France in the first match. They played, I think this is their best match so far. They played really well, and they earned their spot in the round of 16. And it's really cool to see, you know, what I considered basically the worst team in the tournament, just based on player quality and also prior results heading into the tournament. Now that same team finds themselves in the knockout round. It's crazy. So now we have this group here, and this may take the cake for being the craziest day, because first of all, you have Japan versus Spain. I thought this would be a routine win for Spain. They crushed Costa Rica, looked convincing against Germany, even though they ended up drawing 1-1. Meanwhile, Japan, yes, they shocked Germany, but they did lose to Costa Rica, so I thought Japan was pretty much done. And the first half, it looked like that. Spain was dominating, utterly dominating. Morata scored. They got a 1-0 lead. They had 75 to, I think, 77% possession of the ball. Japan barely had any chances. And then the second half came around, and it was just complete flip. Japan started pressuring. They started forcing Spain into mistakes. They got a goal, relatively lucky goal. I think Unai Simon really should have saved that shot, but still, a goal's a goal. And then, in controversial fashion, in less than 2 minutes later, Japan scored another. Now, you know, there's some controversy whether or not the ball crossed the line, and from the naked eye, it looked like it was out, but if you look at the technology, it was still technically in play, just by like a few centimeters. And with that lead, Spain did not look convincing afterwards. They did not seriously look like they were going to equalize or get the win. And Japan, they were content with that victory. If anything, the team that was more likely to score after Japan's second goal was Japan, to score a third. That's really alarming for Spain, considering how well they started the tournament. They looked vulnerable at times. And that controversial goal ultimately eliminated Germany. And now on to the next match. Germany ended up winning 4-2 over Costa Rica. I assumed that Germany was going to win. I said that they would win 2-1, but I did not know it was going to be this close. Germany, they got an early lead. They were playing really well in the opening 10 minutes, but after they got that lead, they just sat back and they looked complacent. Costa Rica did not give up. They got 2 goals. Yes, okay, 2 scrappy goals, but still, they were winning at one point. There was a moment of this match where, because Costa Rica was winning and because Japan was winning, that both Germany and Spain were going to be eliminated from the World Cup. That is just utterly nuts. That is crazy to think that everyone thought Spain and Germany would dominate this group, but there was at one point where they were both going out. Now, Germany was able to regain the lead. Jamal Musiala had a wonderful match. So did Kai Havertz. But still, this German team, there's very, very visible flaws. And to be honest, they deservedly go home in the first round. It is a huge shock, but this German team, they just did not look up to the task, which is surprising considering how well they played before the World Cup under Hansi Flick and how great of a manager Hansi Flick is, but they just did not have it. All right, so on to this next group. We have another shock, yet another shock here, this time in the form of Belgium, who tied 0-0 with Croatia, and with the result in the other game, which we will get onto in a few minutes, that meant that Belgium crashes out of the World Cup. Now, my prediction for this particular match, I thought that Croatia would come swinging out of the gates and crush Belgium 3-0 with a statement win, and that ultimately didn't happen. Croatia had chances. They thought they had a penalty, and in my opinion, it should have been given. It was yet another really close offside. But this one, it was so close. It's to the point where it's unrealistic. It's uncanny. I think you should give the attacker the benefit of the doubt there. Croatia had chances throughout the match. That being said, Belgium should have won this match. They had some, wide open chances in the first half. De Bruyne did everything he could. He created so many chances. He had so many beautiful through balls, so many nice crosses, perfectly weighted passes and everything like that. Dries Mertens just could not finish in the first half, and then Lukaku came on, and remember, he's coming into this tournament with an injury, so he's not in the best of form, and he wasn't able to play in actually any of the matches prior to this. But this was supposed to be, his reintroduction, considering how good he was at the last World Cup as well. And he had, I would say, maybe 5 clear chances to score. Maybe 2 or 3 of them, you would say, were, like, dead on, like you have to score. These are super clear chances. and he missed every single one of them. And safe to say, Lukaku had one of the worst games of his career, and even though he only played 45 minutes, it was bad. It was really, really bad. And besides Lukaku, no one else could score either. And Belgium just looked completely lost. And I think this is it. This is the end of their golden generation. I have to be honest. I thought throughout this tournament they were outplayed in every single match. Well, maybe not in this match against Croatia, but in the other two matches, even though they won against Canada, they were outplayed, and they were lucky to beat Canada. And then they got thoroughly beat by Morocco. And this is it. I think I say this before all the time. I think Belgium wasted their golden generation on two subpar managers, but it'll be very interesting to see where they go from here. Now on to the next match. We have Morocco, who topped the group after their 2-1 win over Canada. Now I don't think Canada played that bad, but it was clear that Morocco was a better team, similar to Canada's last game against Croatia. And it is sad to see Canada go out, considering how well they played against Belgium, but I think their performance heavily deteriorated because of that defeat to Belgium. That just kind of mentally defeated all the players. Still, they were able to grab a goal here, and they even almost equalized into the second half, even though it was against the run of play. Morocco looked professional. They looked really well-rounded. And Nasiri had a wonderful game up top. Hakimi, of course, was good. And then Ziyech, what a chip for the first goal. And Morocco, they're a team to watch out for. No one would have thought that they would top this group. Now, I predicted before the tournament that Belgium would go out, but I did not see Morocco topping the group. That is absolutely crazy. So now let's move on to this group here. We have Cameroon versus Brazil, and this match was so aggravating because I thought, Brazil, even though they made 10 changes to the lineup, they had so many chances, similar to Belgium, where chance after chance after chance. Now in this particular match, the Cameroonian goalkeeper, Apasi, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He was a stand-in for Onana, who got sent home after a fight with his manager. He had a wonderful game. He made some game-saving saves, especially those headers and those few shots from Martinelli. Now Brazil, even though they had all these fours, even though they had all these chances, they still looked a little disjointed up top. And previously in the last two matches, they looked extremely strong defensively. So even though they weren't as fluid going forward, they can count on their back line being just made out of steel, basically. That wasn't as much the case. Now, they still defended well, but it wasn't as resolute as normal. And, it makes sense. They rested all their starters because they've already qualified to the group stage, or from the group stage. But Cameroon stuck with it, and Abubakar had a wonderful header at the end, and Cameroon ends up winning this match 1-0. This is Brazil's first ever group stage defeat since the 1998 World Cup, when they lost to, I think it was Norway or maybe Scotland, something like that. A similar situation where they had already qualified for the group stage, or from the group stage, I mean. But, credit to Cameroon. They, unfortunately, it wasn't enough. They still get eliminated. But, Abubakar proves that he's a top quality striker. And I'm a little disappointed in Brazil, I have to say. Now, this next match, though, Serbia versus Switzerland, this is one of the most fun matches of this World Cup so far, especially that first half. It was just back and forth, end-to-end action. Both these teams were slugging it out. There's some history between the teams. Of course, Shaqiri scored again. I had a whole other video specifically about the last time Serbia and Switzerland played each other and what the political connotations were. And if you're interested in that, I can put a link for that video. And Shaqiri did score in this game, but he did not repeat the hand gestures again. But ultimately, there was a similar result where Switzerland came out on top at the end. And I think that as close as the game was, that might be the fair result, because I think Switzerland was slightly better. But now Brazil topped the group, and Switzerland joined them in the round of 16, which is surprising considering how much this Serbia team was hyped up as being a potential dark horse. And, they played well at times, particularly in the beginning of the second half against Cameroon, but still, you look at their defense, they conceded 8 goals throughout this entirety of the World Cup. 8 goals in 3 matches. That is a terrible return. Big questions can be asked of their defensive shape, the defenders themselves, and things like that. So now we go on to our final group, and if you thought the drama ended there, It definitely did not, because Portugal lined up against South Korea. They made some changes, but still, similar story. You would expect Portugal to go through, especially since Korea just lost to Ghana in the last match. And they played well in the first half. I thought Portugal took the lead, deservedly so. Korea was able to claw back to get an equalizer, and then from that point on, it just seemed like Portugal shut off. I mean, Ronaldo had a bunch of chances they probably should have scored, but from the second half onwards, it was all Korea, and then they scored a second goal late in the 91st minute after a wonderful run from Son and a really good finish from Hwang Lee-chan. And as we will get on to the next game, Uruguay, because of that, are eliminated because South Korea leapfrogged them in the table. Crazy scenes. And speaking of Uruguay, they went up against Ghana, who is looking out for revenge for that 2010 World Cup victory, and unfortunately for Ghana, they did not achieve that. I thought Uruguay looked a little shaky in the first half. Ghana had a penalty yet again, and they missed yet again. But after that penalty, it just kind of awoke Uruguay, and they played some really good football. I thought Suarez had a really good game up top. I thought Cavani looked well. De Arrascaeta was the game winner. He scored 2 goals. The second goal in particular was really nice. A very nice goal, one of the best goals of the tournament so far. But they couldn't score another. To their credit, or in their defense, they didn't know that they were going out because, obviously Korea's second goal came in the 91st minute of their match. So for a majority of the game, Uruguay was doing fine. But because of the events that happened in the other match, and because Uruguay was unable to beat Korea in the first match, considering how disappointing they were going forward, they find themselves out of the World Cup, which is insane. I mean, in my early predictions, I had them going as far as the semifinals, and I did not expect them to be this, for lack of a better term, disappointing. Korea, on the other hand, what a surprise. That's really cool to see them, especially after their loss to Ghana, that they're able to just completely pull a win out here over Portugal. Now they find themselves in the round of 16. But anyway, guys, what a match day. Let me know what you thought of all these games. Let me know how your predictions went. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with a friend. Anyway, guys, my name is Brandon. This has been the Football Block. Hope you guys have a nice rest of your night.